Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order. It is 7 o'clock. First, we will do the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Here.
Mr. Alvario,
Here.
Mr. Calvin,
Here.
Mr. Adela,
Here.
Mayor Perry,
Here.
Solicitor Portal, present. Engineer King, here, and myself, we do have a quorum.
Great, thank you. I just want to say before this meeting that I had gum surgery yesterday, so my voice is hard and I can't smile. So I want to say that ahead of time. I cannot smile and talking is a little difficult. But we'll get through today's meeting. All right, the consent agenda. We have the council meeting minutes, September 12th, also the bill list from September 26th, and then we have the reports that are listed on the agenda. These were all on the OneDrive. So we need a motion to approve the September 26th, 2024 consent agenda, pending bill list approval by the borough president, manager, and treasurer. All right, Ms. Bolenbacher,
Second.
Mr. Chandler, any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Public comments on agenda items. Citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue appearing on today's agenda. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Comments on non-agenda items will be taken at the end of tonight's meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Council has the option to respond or not at the end of the address. The solicitor is our assigned timekeeper. Please state your name and physical address for the record. Oh, good. All right, we will do the folks in person first, and then we'll do any folks on Zoom. Now, I don't know if the topics are relative to the agenda or not, but our first person is Linda Painter.
I want to know why Mr. Tedesco was fired and what is he going to do for this plan?
So that's, can we wait till the end of the agenda? Because that's not an agenda. Okay. Maggie Patterson for zoning.
Maggie Patterson, and I live on Division Street. I wanted to speak about the proposed zoning. Is this an appropriate time?
It's on the agenda.
Yeah.
First of all, I just wanted to say that I'm a senior citizen. I have lived in Crafton for 76 years. I have lived on Division Street for 74 years. And I lived on Noble Avenue my first 2 years. So I have very deep roots in Crafton. As everybody's been saying, I love Crafton, and I'm very interested in what goes on. Okay, I apologize for coming in late to the discussion about the zoning. I'm not techno savvy. My daughter told me, do you know about this? I'm like, well, so what? And then whenever I started to delve in it and she explained it to me, I thought, oh, I better get down there and start participating in that. So that's how I come here. When I got the document, 128 pages, I'm one of these people that I don't have a smartphone, nor did I scroll on my smartphone, read that thing and digest it. I have to have paper. So it's very difficult for me to figure out that document. But I sat down today for about an hour and I came up with like 3 pages of things One of the things is that, I feel that 128 pages is too large for the general public, us citizens, to digest. It's not fair to us to have to say we like this or we don't like it, or what we need changed or not changed. You guys, I suppose, have been working on this for quite a while. So I was wondering, is this a canned document? Is this like, fill in the blanks that makes it pertain to Crafton, putting in the streets, or did somebody write this?
Well, you can go ahead and then we'll.
And so I'm wondering who wrote it and how long did it take them to write it? Because I'm presuming it took maybe a month or a couple of months, and then we're expected to understand it in like a week or so and vote on it. I know that you guys have been giving us more time because we demanded more time. And I think we should have more time. After all, we're not members of Congress that like deal with this all the time. So the other thing I wanted to say is I have attended a couple of the borough meetings and a planning meeting, and it's hard to hear. If I'm trying to speak directly into the microphone, and I hope people are hearing me. Okay, the people come, the microphone's up here, I'm sitting over there, and I can't hear what they're saying. I can't hear you guys, even in the planning. I couldn't hear what the planning people are saying, and I'm thinking, how am I making a decision on this or understanding explanations when I can't hear? Another complaint I have is when you put PowerPoint slides up on the screen. So I can't read that list of names on the right. And you put PowerPoint slides and the writing on the PowerPoint slides is like that. And then you're talking about, see up there where blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know where on that presentation, it was a thing that went like this, where you are. Am I done?
Yeah. Yeah, just wrap up your 3 minutes. Or...
I'm just getting started. I'm just gonna get past page 1. I guess I'll have to talk at the next meeting. To make my point, but that's my point.
Well, you can go ahead and make your point. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think the document, a thought I came up with is let's break it up into groups. Okay. So tonight, I didn't know where to start with that document. It was so confusing. And I thought, okay, let me start with where I live, Division Street, that is labeled CTOD. What is that? So I had to go look and I found that it's Crafton Transit Oriented District. I'm like, what is that? It's a residential district. We do have the funeral home, we do have a church, and we have a meeting place next to the funeral home. What's transit oriented? So to me, that's alarming. We're all saying we want to keep Crafton the essence that it is, residential, quaint, brick streets, trees. Okay, it says on there that what they want to do is make it like walkable, close to the transit for people to make use of it, have the businesses close there. And that's what that rang a bell with me, okay? I want to live, 74 years on that street. I want to keep it residential to the day I die. And it's not there. What, across the street, I'm going to see brick buildings, 3 to 5 stories. And I said, what are they allowing in CTOD? Well, they said long-term care facilities, daycare centers, etc. I want that on my residential street. So I really am objecting to that. And then also, okay, well, my daughter says to me, well, theoretically, they could change your home into a care facility, like say for aged people. And I said, well, they wouldn't fit too many in here, but even if they fit 4 or 5, where's the workers' cars going to go on my street? I have to fight for the 2 spaces that are directly in front of my house. So are they going to put a parking lot, 5-story parking lot across from me? What does that do to my view? Okay. Yeah, I'm jumping all over.
Yeah, because we want to be respectful for everybody too. And I think I'll just say that a lot of it is just, we can address it too during our presentation here. So a lot of the things that you've dived into have already either been addressed through questioning or whatever. and we can help you with that, so.
Okay, so maybe I don't have the updated thing, but all I'm saying is I am concerned, like a lot of the others.
Yeah.
The fact that the residential should be residential and stay that way, and no more ugly buildings.
Mhm.
Where they should have beautiful buildings and ugly buildings. You don't want that in rent. So,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
I can address a couple things. But one, we got your email and we shared it with the planning commission, so they have it, and they're the next people that are gonna be discussing this.
Okay,
And I looked up your Division Street because I was curious why that side of Division Street, I wasn't here when the districts were mapped out.
Yeah.
That happened prior to my arrival. But Division Street is actually already marked as the central business district of Crafton.
in the existing,
In the existing code, you could have a 60-foot building built right next to you right now. That has not changed. But I could talk to the planning commission and we could possibly make a recommendation of removing all those residential houses from the central business district. And because they all are residential. But that's a decision for the planning commission, but I was gonna write a memo in response to your email, making that suggestion as an offer for them. I don't know why your street was marked as, it's under the current code, it's marked as a business street. And I think they just left it when they moved to the new code. I don't know any other reason why.
Yeah, a lot of those borders were not changed.
Okay. So that's the way it is under the code now. So we could actually move it to protect those houses better.
right,
Yep.
please do,
Yep.
because this is why we citizens are objecting to rushing this thing through.
And we're not trying to rush it. In fact, we still have, just so you know, at least until January till this is passed.
Okay.
Because there's county reviews and then there's.
I don't care about them.
Yeah. But we still have, yeah.
And they say yes or no what we said. So we have to get it right. But okay, that's good. I'll speak again.
Okay.
Thank you. AJ Pursuer?
I will wait.
Oh, to the end, okay. All right, if anybody online has a comment, they can raise their hand on Zoom.
Nope.
Okay, seeing none, we'll go into the president's report. The first item I had was the Giving Grove Project Fruit Orchard. So the planting is scheduled for October 17th. This will be for just some information. This was a grant through Giving Grove through Tree Pittsburgh to plant 18 fruit trees in Crafton Park next to the community garden. And these will be fruit trees with, I think they're in here, apples, pears, plums, that will be then donated to the community food bank. So as the trees produce fruit, it'll go to the food bank and people can benefit from that. This is 100% grant funded. There is no cost to the borough. The planting will be done by Sherwin-Williams volunteers, workers who will be coming in to volunteer, 9:30 to 12 p.m., not a.m. We're not going to make them work overnight to do the planting. And again, it'll be open to the public. They're also going to fund the protection for the trees so that the deer don't get them. So this is a great project that the Shade Tree Commission has been working on for some time. And the commission, and especially the folks that are part of that commission, have really been working with the Giving Grove to make sure that this happens. So it'll be, by this time next month, we'll have the orchard in place. It's awesome. I also wanted to recognize Mr. Baker. Clyde Baker did pass away on September 16th. He was 93 years old. His wife, Helena, she was with him for 30 years. His prior wife was Pauline for 42 years. He was one of 16 children. So I don't know how that's a lot of children. He was also in the Navy. He was the owner of Bulkheiser and Moss Barber Supply and also Copper Barrel Antiques. And he donated his 5 acres of property. Well, we purchased his 5 acres of property to become Baker's Acres, and that's a green space right now, park. So just to recognize him as he has passed away. And the good news is we did the dedication. There is a stone there for him on October 22nd of last year. So we were able to do that. He was not in good health, but we're very thankful for this and for his contributions to the community. I also wanted to mention, it's not on the agenda, is the waste RFP process. I'm so proud of the process and the community input for that. We did the RFP. This was actually talked about in early last year about how we were going to go about it. The staff put together a great RFP that went out. We got bids. We had a lot of community input in 2 separate meetings and also online. So we got a lot of comments online and we've made a good decision. It's changed, so it's going to be hard, but from a cost standpoint, it's much less than we expected. And from a process standpoint, our current contract isn't over this year, so we had to find a solution. And I'm just so happy with how the process went, and the input from the community was vitally important for that. So I wanted to acknowledge that. And with that, that's all I have. So the mayor's report.
All right, so for my report today, I wanted to give an update on the police chief search process. Last week, on the 17th and 18th, we had the Police Chiefs Association in and conducting interviews for a number of the applicants. The panel consisted of the executive director of the police, the Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police. He is a retired chief of Westchester Borough in Chester County, and also Thomas Ogden. He is the retired chief of police, both from Mount Lebanon and Carnegie Mellon University. Each one of them have more than 40 years of law enforcement. And what I wanted to say is the search committee, Holton, Chandler and Mike Hope and I attended the interviews, and I think you're all extremely impressed with the process, the level of questioning, and how the interviews were conducted. So basically, just to let everyone know, they had 12 high-level strategic questions, and each applicant was given a sealed envelope when they came to the appointment, and they had a half an hour to review and make notes. And then they came in for their 60-minute interview where they controlled the whole process, letting the panel know when they were finished. So every single applicant got exactly the same questions in the same order by actually even the same panelists. So it was very, very uniform and really gave a great deal of insight and information. And I feel really, really good about the process as we've gotten it started. And I think my fellow committee was also equally impressed. And we will be speaking to council later on about next steps and where we take the interview process from here. All right. Anybody got any questions about that? No? All right, so I will just move it on. We've got lots going on, and that was my big thing.
Okay. The service report.
Thank you, Mr. President. To dovetail the mayor's report, we will be having an executive session this evening to discuss personnel matters. You might be able to figure out what that is. It is the police chief search. And we'll also discuss briefly pending litigation matters. I'll give everybody an update or two. And that's the end of my report. Although I do want to say, Mr. Baker, I had the pleasure of sitting with him and for him to sign the papers, which should have taken 5 minutes, but he was such a character, and my administrative assistant, who's a notary, came with me, and we had a great time spending about an hour and a half with him and listening to all the stories. And sad to hear that he passed away, but glad that got to meet him and know him before he made this donation to the borough. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Engineers report.
All right, good evening. We're going into each of these items, like give an update that's not listed here. And it's about the school zone speed limit signs in the borough. One located up on Crafton Boulevard by Baldwick and Oakwood there was malfunctioning for a couple weeks, but we had since got a contractor in there to take a look and took another one effort, but he eventually replaced the time clock and the light, and my knowledge is working correctly this time. The other school zone, speed limit signs down by the St. Philip's Church. We needed PennDOT approval to cancel the school zone permit before we can remove these. Checked that back in with them today, and we're looking to get that letter as soon as next week. And once we get that, we can move forward with removing the poles. Going on to the first item listed here, the Broadhead Sewer Project, again, an upcoming large sewer project here in the borough, which is still in the last step here, before sending it out to bid. We need to get EPA approval on some of on the federal application. They received a bid schedule, but ended up being a little premature, and we'll get that revised once the final approval has been received from the EPA.
We do anticipate that happening next week.
Yes.
So knock on wood, that's been taking much longer than we anticipated.
And next is the public stairs project. Again, this is on its last leg of construction, which is the installation of the handrails. The handrail subcontractor has been out there this week installing the new handrails for the promenade fountain section. Upon a site visit, I did discover that it is not complete yet, and they still have, I think, 2 sections left, but it is mostly done. And the remaining steps, crafting the walnut, crafting the clear view, the shop drawings have been received, reviewed, and sent back in for final edits, where hopefully it will be finally approved and sent on to manufacturing. The next item is the road paving. Paving contractor Plano finished their paving this week on Monday, the 23rd, with the exception of Locust Avenue, which unfortunately and coincidentally received a water main break during the process and was not paved. I immediately went into trying to get a contribution agreement with PA American Water with this, where we would receive funds for the paving, but it was disclosed to me that it's being a one-off repair. They typically don't do that, and it's more reserved for capital improvements like they did for Eric Street. But we will see the extent of their repair, and we'll go from there with repaving the rest of the street.
So whose fault was the water main break?
It's just, it wasn't about paving, it just broke.
Oh,
was
it just happened to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a random coincidence.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I was told that day we'll be doing the base repair soon.
Oh, better. It's better to happen that day.
Right,
than
right,
afterwards,
absolutely,
so,
correct,
okay.
yeah, absolutely. The next item, again, back at PA American Water, they had some capital improvement work over the summer on 4th Street. The last street really with any work being done is the brick portion of Union Avenue. The latest update from that project manager is that all the service level work is said to have been completed. I'll still get confirmation on that. Have yet to get that. And also that the paving brick contract with Sun Deconstruction should be working on the brick restoration. I was driving through, it didn't look like they begun that work just yet. The next item is regarding the trail feasibility study. Again, with the current phase is that we're in the process of putting together a study committee for this, which is required. I need to be able to update members of the committee that have been selected before we can move forward with sending out the RFP. This week I completed a draft recruitment post that will be sent out to the community via social media that will go over what is being asked, and if any members would like to join or be interested. Right now that's being reviewed, and hoping to put that out as soon as next week.
Great.
So anyone that's interested in being a part of the trail study, be on the lookout for that. The next 3 items I'm going to be calling motions for, because I had received work authorizations for each of these and feel it's in the best interest and basically obtaining a better understanding of how the engineering funds are being spent, that I disclose whenever we do receive a work authorization, as well as uploading these to the OneDrive site so that anyone who would like to view them in more detail can do so. Moving on to the Public Works building. Stated in the last meeting, there are essentially 2 stages left to getting this building complete. One is the work that we can move forward with now, and that is the sanitary sewer lateral work. That was approved at the last meeting, and that work went up to bid today. The second part is everything that's left to get this building complete, operational and occupation for the Public Works Department. And that is the final development of the plans, specifications, the bid documents, bid administration, and everything per the work authorization received at a fee of no more than $50,000. With that said, I'd like to call a motion to authorize Gateway to complete the final plans and specifications, bid documents per the work authorization received at a fee of no more than $50,000.
Ms. Mollenbacher,
Second,
Ms. Bukownik. Questions or discussion? This was already approved at the last council meeting, correct?
The sewer lateral work was,
Mhm.
there was two separate work authorizations.
Mhm.
One last name was for the lateral work.
Yeah, and to clarify, that was for the construction.
Mhm.
And we haven't done this before. We haven't brought, because we used to be on time and materials for engineering work.
Mhm.
And now we're moving to
This
an
is-
authorization process so that in every step of the process, you'll see what the costs are as opposed to just seeing them on the bills. So this is budgeted, but this way you're actually gonna get a chance to see every step. As we go through these projects. So this is specifically for the and when
The engineer.
the engineering work, and we should probably clarify.
Yes.
And engineering services. Correct.
Yeah, so this is for the engineering
That
services.
makes it, okay.
and you said there is no more than 50,000.
Correct, not to exceed 50,000.
I'm just reiterating, this was in our budget.
And this
Yes,
is under the engineering costs through Gateway. Because whenever you have a project, you get the work for them to actually do the project in the ground, but then there's engineering that obviously comes with that.
Sorry, real quick, is this engineering for the sewer or for the build
That's the
out? after?
building.
The build out.
Build out.
Gotcha.
Yeah, all the design of the electrical, mechanical, plumbing, any remaining architectural, structural coordination of the utilities, tying those in, laying those out, plans, bids, specs, administration.
all the essentials.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. All in favor? Opposed?
No.
So motion passes 4-1.
And moving on to the next item is the C20 sewer project. Two updates here. Today is supposed to be the day that Alcosan grants the awards to their projects for this cycle. Their board meeting is tonight. I did check their agenda and there is an action item on there granting the projects for this cycle, the GROW grant. So hopefully as soon as tomorrow, we could receive notice that we won the awards for these projects. The mindset up to this point has been that the separation projects stay on hold at 90% until we do receive award for these before moving them on to 100%. Getting the bid documents ready and standing by for the bid administration work. But with that said, I did receive a work authorization, moving these projects from the 90% to the 100 and putting together the bid specs, documents, and bid administration services. Per the work authorization received, fees are not to exceed $14,000. That said, any questions on this? None, then with that said, I'd like to call for a motion authorizing Gateway to carry on with the separation projects for the GROW grant, 90% to 100, including the bid documents and bid administration work at a fee of no more than not to exceed $14,000.
So moved.
Mr. Chandler,
Second,
Ms. Mollenbacher. Questions or discussion? Okay. Hearing none?
is the
Oh, go ahead.
14K in the budget?
Yeah, these are all
Budget, just making sure. You're in, yes, okay.
And we're talking about this will happen only if we get awarded the grant.
Right.
Great.
Okay.
That was about to be my question.
Mhm.
Then nothing, it's done.
Yeah, I just wanna, stand myself when we do receive a award, we can move forward with
Okay.
the completion of the work.
All right, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Second update regarding the C20 sewer work is the green infrastructure, the GSI portion of this project, which affects Dakota, Montana, and Oregon streets. I did receive the latest landscape plans for the green infrastructure to look at and review. I didn't see anything outstanding on them, but I did want to share that they were received, and if considering this is going to be additional landscape for the community and possible like beautification for the neighborhood. If anyone would like to view them and take a look, I'd be happy to post them on the OneDrive site. And anybody can look at them as they will. They were asking if there was any other comments with them, because they need to send them over to Alphasan and their consultant for their final approval as well. So I just wanted to put that out there and let everyone know. Moving on, the next is a pending approval, is a potential upcoming project, the Station Street retaining wall at the end of Station Street connecting with Division, by the busway there, is showing multiple signs of failure. It's leading towards the busway, there's horizontal cracking along the base, all the pavement and the grounds upslope of the wall are subsiding, and it's not gonna get any better on its own. A site review meeting was held this Tuesday, the 24th, with Gateway Engineers to discuss the project. Two outcomes from that are we did receive some potential or some ballpark estimates for the construction. They range from between 130K, between 180K to mediate this retaining wall. And the second update is that I did receive a work authorization for the survey work on this. This will begin the process of this project and will be the base map served for the design of the new wall and slope to fix the situation. Part of the work authorization, that fee is not to exceed more than $8,500. Questions? If no, then I call for a motion that we authorize Gateway Engineers to carry out the survey work at the Station Street retaining wall per the work authorization received, not to exceed a fee of $8,500.
And for the record, this is in the budget. And
In the,
and in the bond fund, and though most likely not even most likely, the construction will happen next year, which is also going to be in the budget for next year.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Pownix, second, Mr. Chandler, any discussion?
You answered my question, so thanks for that.
This project, or this, we've known about this for some time, and this has been kind of pushed out, but it's not going to get better on its own, as Larry said. So it's something that just happens with infrastructure, unfortunately, and something that we'll need to fix, which is why we always want to make sure we have extra money in the bond fund to be able to do that. Any other comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Okay, and the last item on the engineer's report is the basement of the police station garage. It's been made aware to me that this has been discussed in other meetings, but to those that are not aware, I'd like to give a recap of the situation. Underneath the police garage in the Borough building in the basement, over the course of time, let's say 15+ years, there has been a drainage issue with the floor, allowing water to drain through and causing substantial cracking in the concrete beams and supports. There's evidence of rust, there's calcium buildups, and there's signs that the cracks are actually getting worse by extending towards the front of the building. We did bring in a specialty structural engineer whose services include inspections and assessments of these situations. And to get his basically opinion on the matter. His initial recommendation was to only park in the garage if we absolutely had to, for example, during the prisoners. He's expecting to give us a report by tomorrow where we'll have a better understanding of his findings and recommendations. But during the process, he did give a ballpark construction fixed figure of 30 to 80K. There are no questions with that. That completes the engineer's report.
And this item of the 3080 is one of the decisional items, of course, for us in the budget that we just had at the budget meeting prior. And it goes with the building. The building is very old, and I think there's 6 levels, right, in the building, and it's these are repairs that are obviously very important for us. Anything else?
That concludes the report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Keenan. Manager's report.
First thing to report, is we are getting close to the response on our right to know requests. We have had quite a few documents, so, currently, for these first round, we're looking at probably $5,000 for these, to pay for the redaction and whatnot, to go through all these documents. And we don't anticipate the next round being as expensive, but that's what we're looking at right now. I just wanted to give everybody an update on that. At least, yeah. So we're doing that as efficiently as possible.
I'll just jump in real quick. The first request generated approximately 23,000 documents from the borough's service. And that some of those are single pages, some of those are 10, 15, 20 pages long. So it's a very tedious process. But we're working to try to streamline it to keep costs and as line as possible. But there's only so much you can do with that volume of documents. So
next thing on my agenda here is the zoning update. This says first draft, but it really isn't a first draft. We're at the 919 draft, I think, is online, or the 923 draft. So the latest draft is online. We've gotten new comments, so there will be updates as comments are coming in. And as we make updates and corrections and changes. The next steps, the community open house is next Thursday, so a week from today at 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Planning commission members, some of them will be there, some council members will be there, and Mike Bingham will also be there. In council chamber, or it'll be, I'm not sure whether we're going to do it in here or in the community center. We might be doing it in the community center. But we'll have that laid out before that. Next planning commission meeting, the official meeting is October 22nd, but I know they are discussing doing a working session, so there could be a working session ahead of that. I don't think AJ, you haven't chosen a date yet, have you?
I was just going to check that it will be after the open house and before the 22nd.
Okay.
It's like the 18th.
Great, okay. So we'll provide information, we'll put that information on Savvy on our website and on social media when that time is chosen, so that anybody can attend who would like. And then any further discussions, forums, and meetings are being planned, and we'll update everyone as soon as we can. So with that, I'm going to move on to the budget process schedule. We had our second budget meeting this evening, and we're still waiting for a few additional pieces of information. But decisions are pretty well laid out on that, but we'll be having the rest of those meetings as you see them laid out there. We did move the November 28th meeting to the 26th, and that was approved at the last meeting. Also, if you came to the budget workshop and saw our new logo, that is going to be officially launched this weekend at the Fall Fest. So that should be a great event. We have a great band. We have some great vendors. I think they have more than 7 vendors for that. So I'm not going to steal the
Yeah.
stuff.
Darn it.
But we're looking at the logo launch that day. And also, just to reiterate, we do have a Facebook page now, a LinkedIn page. I think we don't have an Instagram yet, but we're working on it. Once we launch that logo, so keep an eye out for that information. But with that, that is my report.
Right,
yes,
thank
And
you.
can I just ask another clarifying question? I just want to make sure I understand the first thing you said. On those right to knows,
Mhm.
it's $5,000 for what we've been received so far.
for the first request.
For the first
So
request.
if only one request,
Even
one
the
right
very
to
top.
know is 5,000, but
Yeah.
we've received more.
a few more. None is that.
None is-
Not as quite as broad as that.
And that money that's not in a budget, that's,
No.
yeah, so
Paid for by
that's,
our residents.
yes, so every right to know coming from the community is,
Yeah, most of them aren't that large.
okay,
When they're very broad and ones
The
like.
first one was very broad, and I think the third one was not quite as broad, but pretty broad.
Okay.
So, yeah, that they will be expensive. We're doing the best that we can to keep the costs where they are, but it's just not possible not to do it.
yeah, okay, I make sure I heard you right.
Yeah.
Standing committee reports, finance, administration, sustainability, Ms. Berry.
Well, I really don't have anything else to add aside from the budget meeting and a couple of other discussion items we've had, so I'm just gonna move on to the next one. We should have well, our next meeting will be next month, yeah, the 10th, so. All right. I think our budget workshops are pretty much gonna take care of this committee report. And now that we've got the waste contract done, that kind of takes care of the sustainability portion as well.
Great.
Okay.
And I would say the process for the budget has been very open and extremely detailed. That goes to the staff and also to the finance committee. That we have never had the amount of details or precision on each of the line items to the nth degree that we're going right now, which is great to have.
Yeah.
So that's definitely appreciated, and having all the information available. And again, for those that weren't at the budget workshop, we are proposing no real estate tax increase for 2025 for the 5th year in a row. So that'd be 5 years and that goes to meticulously managing the finances to make sure that we keep that. We can't promise it forever, but it's something
But
that.
I would add that we're modeling out several years
Yes.
without
Mhm.
tax increases, as we move forward.
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
Whether we have some big issues or things that change, but as you mentioned, the administration is doing a phenomenal job, and they have put together a look back more than we've ever had before on one document, and a look ahead with a model that meets most of our needs without increasing the millage. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Sure. All right, infrastructure and land use, Mr. Keenan.
I put Mr. Keenan on this, but there really is no update on this. He updated with the other. We were gonna, you had Linwood and Noble Park on here. But I still have to talk to DCNR. So we have to see whether they'll let us use the grant money the way we would want to before we can discuss it further. That's why I took that off.
And I want to make sure that stays on the agenda so that we can continue to discuss that. All right, Planning Commission, Mr. Badilla, can you give us an update about the meeting and also the next meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. Jim kind of already mentioned that, but so on Tuesday we had a meeting. It was really productive, a lot of great citizen feedback. We are planning to have our working meeting, like AJ said, after the open house, but before our next meeting on the 22nd of October. That will be open to the public. But feel free to come to these meetings. We really are looking for this feedback, and I'll make sure to bring that bring those concerns that you brought about Division Street up at the next meeting as well. So keep an eye out for that working meeting, and then our next scheduled meeting is October 22nd at 6:30 right here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Communication recreation, Ms. Bolenbacher.
Okay, like Jim said, Fall Fest is this Saturday, September 28th. It's gonna be from 1 to 6. Some entertainment that we have, we're kicking it off with our puppy parade and costume contest. I think we have at least 10 dogs registered, maybe a couple more. Then followed by that, we'll have the Element Dance Troupe from the West End doing a production, and then we have the Corn Liquor Saints playing music for the remainder of the day. Games and entertainment for the day include axe throwing, inflatable obstacle course, bubble house, balloon artist, face painting, spin art, lawn games, and kid crafts, all of which are free. So please come enjoy. We do have 5 food vendors, as well as Back Alley Brewing will be serving up some beer. And we do have over 70 vendors, so there's a lot of shopping to be done. Keep our fingers crossed that the weather will stay. It looks like it's gonna be pretty nice. We'll see what happens, but fingers crossed for that. As always, we need volunteers. If you're planning on coming for the day, if you could even just give us 60 minutes of your day, just to help some kids across the obstacle course, you know, things like that. So if anybody can give us even 60 minutes of your time, we would truly appreciate that. Just go to the Borough website and you can let the rec board know that you would be interested to help them out for a little bit. We just haven't touched a truck. I forgot to add that on there as well. Which I think is gonna have our fire truck and one of our public works.
Thanks, yeah, I was on that.
Next after that is our haunted house tour, and that's gonna run October 19th through Halloween night. And that kicks off with a trunk or treat in Crafton Park from 6 to 8 p.m. And that trunk or treat will also have a craft vendor pop-up. Came to my attention that a lot of people might not know what a trunk or treat actually is. It's when members of the community come together in a designated area, typically a parking lot. You come and you open your trunk and you decorate your trunk for Halloween and you hand out candy there. It's basically an alternative to trick or treating from house to house. So we know a lot of our neighbors in Crafton, there are some streets that don't get a whole lot of trick or treaters. So this is a really nice opportunity for you to come and participate in the trick or treating. So if anybody's interested in taking part in the trunk or treat, again, you can go to the Borough website and let us know up until October 1st. That's when we need to know how many people so we can plan accordingly. Same with the vendors. If you are a vendor, would like to sell some things out of your trunk, it always sounds kind of funny to me, but I like that. Same thing, please go to the Borough website, let us know, and we will reserve a spot for you.
And it's not a haunted Crafton tour, house tour. It's you're in your car walking around.
Correct.
Just to clear,
Yeah,
okay,
haunted
yeah,
house tour is
nobody's
something
going into
separate
houses,
from
yes.
that, correct. We also have, thank you, is the haunted house tour. It's a self-guided tour. We do have, basically you can make a donation if you wish. And you get a code that you can go and you listen to the tour. It'll tell you where to go in the neighborhood. And you'll get a nice little scary story about the house and it gives you a chance to show off your Halloween decor. So again, if you have really cool Halloween decorations and you want people in the neighborhood to see them, let us know. We'll add you to the tour. You can come up with your own scary story if you'd like. If not, the rec board can certainly help you out with creating a story. And again, just like the trunk or treat, if you can let us know by October 1st, so we can add you to the list. From there, our next, actually, I did want to mention, I forgot, my apologies, is the spooky mini golf. That is going to be running in conjunction with Fall Fest on Saturday. It's also going to run through Fridays and Saturdays through October, weather permitting. I believe it's $2 a round. And again, it's Friday and Saturdays through October from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Halloween, we are celebrating our annual trick or treating on Thursday, October 31st from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So get ready for that as well. But again, if you're on one of those streets that don't get a lot of kids, check out the trunk or treat. What else do I have here? We actually just collected all of our articles for our next newsletter. And our next newsletter should be out sometime in November prior to Thanksgiving. And I think that's all I have. Actually, I guess I should just mention really quickly our 2 last events for the year is our celebration of lights, which will be Saturday, December 7th in Crafton Park. I'll have more details to come in the upcoming meetings. And we have our holiday house tour on Sunday, December 15th. We are accepting houses for that tour as well right now. So once again, if you have lovely holiday decor that you would like to share with your neighborhood, let us know. Go to the website and sign up for the tour. No, I'm done.
I did want to acknowledge the rec board for their work. The Fall Fest is it is our biggest event of the year. And putting all these things takes a lot of effort. And almost every month we're having an event and they work really hard to do this. And it's a nice variety. So I know Pam's on the rec board and Aaron's involved and we have lots of volunteers. So that's, I definitely want to recognize that and know that those things are going on behind the scenes there. All right, next, Municipal County Commission vacancy.
Good segue.
Yeah.
Lots of good transitions.
Yeah.
Speaking of rec board, we have two current openings. So this evening, I'm going to be looking to make some motions for Liz Palmer and Megan Winters to be back on the rec board. So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Liz Palmer to the Recreation Board for a new term starting on September 30th, 2024 and expiring on September 30th, 2028.
Okay, you're making the first motion.
Mhm.
Ms. Bucownick, Ms. Volenbacher, discussion or questions?
Just want to say Liz does a phenomenal job.
Yes.
She is the biggest, probably hardest worker. They all work super hard, but yeah, I'm happy to see she's.
Liz currently wears the cap as our chairman. So yes, she goes above and beyond all the time. Second motion I'd like to make is,
Oh, no,
oh
no.
gosh, I always jump the gun, guys. Oh,
Any more discussion? Liz will definitely be running around Saturday. You'll see her
Yes.
at the ball cap and she'll be out and about, so you can meet her. All right. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, Ms. Smith.
all right. Second motion I would like to make is a motion to appoint Megan Winters to the Recreation Board for a new term starting on September 30th, 2024 and expiring on September 30th, 2028.
Ms. Bucownick, Ms. Volenbacher, any questions or discussion?
I should just mention, the rec board terms are 4 years,
Mhm.
so that's why it is such a long period of time. So again, Megan is currently serving and like Liz just goes above and beyond, so solid rock star.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, so that'll fill our rec board. Currently it fills the rec board back up. We do, at the end of this year, we will have some zoning hearing board, both a full-time and an alternate seat becoming available. So like all of our postings, Savvy Citizen will be putting it out there and making sure people know. And our interview process is just make sure you go to our website, craftonborough.com/commission, where you can apply. And then it is a pretty straightforward interview process, depending on how many candidates we get. So, but that'll be later on in the year.
Yeah. And I think it'd be a good point to clarify what that means, because we hear a lot about zoning these days. So what does
Oh,
the
yes.
zoning hearing board do? Do you want to?
No, I'd love it if you would.
Okay. Can't smell, remember. So the zoning hearing board, they don't come up with the zoning code or anything. Basically, what they do is if there's anything, and maybe you can even clarify too, anything that gets a question on zoning and somebody wants to propose a new type of zoning in for their resident or business, they would go to the zoning hearing board.
Yeah, basically you can, whatever zoning's applicable to your property, you can go there and ask for what's called a variance, which is a change.
Mhm.
That's primarily what they will do. And then the second most prevalent request is if somebody receives a notice of violation under the zoning code, they are engaged in a use that's not permitted on their property, etc. That those notices can be appealed to the zoning hearing board and they'll hold a hearing and make a determination. All zoning hearing board decisions are also appealable to the Court of Common Pleas and then to the Commonwealth Court, then the PA Supreme Court, if someone decides to take that route. So it's a quasi judicial body.
It has its own solicitor, no council people can be on that board. And we are going to have 3 openings for that. So we definitely want to have applicants for it. And I think, and you're on that, right? Right, yes. And I don't know if your term expires or not, but okay, good. So join Betty for our zoning hearing board.
And just one on zoning hearing, where most of our boards or commissions are pretty consistent with when they meet. It is as needed. So it is, I don't want to use the word loose. It doesn't have a standard schedule. So, okay, that's it for vacancy.
Thanks, great. Hey, Council of Governments, Ms. Vollenbach.
Finally did have another meeting after summer break. They had a speaker, his name is Joseph Martinelli, he is the CEO of a company called Boston Inspection Group. They gave a presentation on their housing quality standards program. I do have some literature if anybody's interested in reading about it. But other than that, just want to let you know that the next meeting will be held Thursday, October 17th at 6:30 in McKees Rocks. If anybody would like to join.
Okay, thank you. All right, community announcements. Our next council meeting is October 10th at 7. The budget meeting workshop will be prior at 6 o'clock. We have Fall Fest, which Ms. Bollenbacher had gone through, which is the Saturday 1 to 6, and that is in Crafton Park. The Crafton Haunted Driving Tour, and Ms. Bollenbacher also talked about that, and the Spectacular Mini Golf, which will be starting this Saturday in addition to the every Saturday in October. Halloween, of course, 6 to 8 on October 31st. And Shade Tree, and I'll read this. This is the Crafton Shade Tree Commission is looking for homeowners who are interested in a shade tree for their front yard. Planted in a few feet back from the front sidewalk, so not in the little strip that's between the concrete and the road. It's in your own yard. Crafton has been a member of Tree City USA for 35 years, and every year we plant our trees in early November. If you want to add your house to the list, there is an email. You can send it to craftonclerk@craftonborough.com. You can call the borough office at extension 10, and you can go on our website and request a tree. After an evaluation by the commission members, you will be notified if your home will receive a tree, which will be planted by Public Works. That will be your tree to maintain. The cost for the tree will actually is paid for through our budget and through our funds. So we have that completely budgeted. And of course, trees are important. As I had mentioned at the prior meeting, we can't plant them any longer in the tree line, which is that tiny little strip, because as you see with our sycamores and everything else, yeah, they really don't do well. So this is an opportunity for you to get a free tree in your yard. And these will not be little trees. They're going to be probably a 2-inch diameter tree. But again, maintenance around deer protection, watering, leaf pickup, that would fall onto the homeowner because it'll be your tree. All right. Anybody else have anything to add? Okay. Public comment. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Council has the option to respond or not at the end of the address. The solicitor is our assigned timekeeper. Please state your name and physical address for the record. So we have two people, Linda Painter.
I already asked my question.
You can do it.
My question is one to know. Why was Mr. Tedesco hired? And for what reason? What is he going to bring to this borough?
Okay. Yeah, and we can choose to answer that. I'd like to address it, and also potentially Mr. Price. Mr. Sample was the assistant borough manager at the time. So there was a borough manager and assistant borough manager. That position was changed to the community and economic development based on feedback, not only from residents, but council, in looking at what is the direction that we need. Where's the big focus area? So assistant borough manager position was eliminated and replaced with the community and economic development position. We advertised for the position. We went through an extensive interview process, and based on qualifications, reference checks, everything, Mr. Tedesco was the most qualified candidate for the position. Jim can go over some of the duties that he has. I can also do, we have publicized the job description, and those are the things that he's working on. A lot of it is focused on community and economic development, which is in his title.
Yep.
We want to.
So currently, he's working a lot on zoning right now. He's taken over that process for a large part. He is focused on communication. So he's also a communication specialist related to Facebook and our website. And he's currently working through updating our website. He's helping with modernizing, he manages the code department. So he's also working on modernizing the code department. So we have, online, code department is, most of our stuff right now is done on paper. So we're working on pushing that to online process so that it's easier and saves money and creates efficiencies. So he's working on all those efficiencies. And we're also working on marketing the borough. New logo, new website, really, because when I was hired, I was given the task of helping push economic development. And that's really where he is helping with that aspect. So those are the things that he's largely working on.
Could I,
And we have a job description for him as well.
could I just add to remind everybody our comprehensive plan from several years ago? The biggest focus was on economic development. And so that's been a mandate from our community for quite a number of years.
And I think where that applies is, it's not easy just to come and build new small businesses and everything. It's a process, and it's a developing relationships that happen over time. So things like looking at our shopping center, it's not the best shopping center, and there's only so much we can do. But what we can do is have the person developing relationships, looking at ways that we can build and attract businesses. And that's what a lot of small businesses want, is a point of contact who they can talk to say, we want your business here. And that's what we have. And that's what this position is also focused on. A lot of the zoning is whether you can build certain things in certain areas, but it's not encouraging the businesses to come here. So that answers the question. We can answer more. Next person is AJ Pursuant.
Yeah, I'm only gonna ask Jim, could you?
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Name and address, yeah.
There we go, okay. I'm gonna do this right there. Maybe that's your 75, right?
You have to get to the mic, yeah.
I was only asked Jim if you would clarify what Mike's role is on the planning commission.
Oh,
Because I think that is really important for people to understand what his job is
sure.
in being assigned here.
Yeah, he's just facilitating it. So he's helping with, when we're changing things and when notes need to be made, he's basically facilitating those meetings so that people have the information they need. And when we're getting comments from citizens, that they are immediately getting sent to the planning commission, and we're helping to navigate that, creating presentations and really managing the back end of all of that work, because there's a lot moving, and there's a lot of conversation, and there's a lot of information being updated and changed, and really navigating all of that. And it really, right now, is taking almost all this time.
So I'd also like to add, if that's possible, that the process, which began more than 2 years ago, when Mr. Tedesco got here, it was a pretty complete document that was going through changes. And his role has been primarily to listen to, community input and trying to find middle ground to keep it moving forward. So I really want to emphasize, based on some of the things that we've heard, that he had no role in actually designing anything new in this zoning update.
That's correct. It was essentially, it was in draft form when he got here, and it was finalized through Zone Co before he even wrote that into it. So it is not, doesn't have his
fingerprints on it.
Yeah. All right. No more public. Oh, but go. AJ, did you want to finish?
Yeah. Being new on the planning commission.
Yeah, make sure it talks. Yeah, we've
had.
had some people, just so people can hear.
Yeah.
Being new on the planning commission, I would just say that I'm learning about it, as you guys know, we've been here. And I would describe Mike's role, not the word facilitator could misimply. I would really call it, he is our administrator. So when I was in civil service, within the 5 of us, or within the 3 of us, we had a secretary, which was one of us. There was no way we could be the secretary for the planning. There was no way that any of us who are volunteers would have the time to do that. So Mike's role for us is to go through the 135 pages, to listen where we have questions, to bring stuff back in. To say, here's what do you want on the agenda, he just carries that load for us, and then you could speak to that more time, because you've been there longer, but that's what I would just like to make sure that that's clear, Eric is facilitating the process as our chairperson.
Thank you. And to emphasize, all staff is open to the public. You can always contact the staff member if you have questions, if you want to meet with them, you certainly can do that. And I encourage residents to do that at any time, whether it's on zoning or anything else. All right, so, did you?
18, 17.
Sandy Moore, 1781 Laura Avenue.
Make sure to pull it up. Yeah.
Oh, all right,
Yes.
there we go.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't work very well, so.
Yeah.
As some of this I talked about at the planning commission, but since this is a different group of people, I just thought I'd make a couple points on the zoning. One of my points was the daycare 7 to 12 that are permitted in the residential district. To me, that's more of a business. If you have 12 kids you're watching in your house, that's a business, and I really don't want it next door to me or in my neighborhood. I love hearing the kids play in the neighborhood, but I don't want it. 7 to 12 is a lot to be in residential, so I'd like that to be considered to be actually taken out, because you have daycare center in the commercial. So, another point I had was density limit in the transit and mixed use, and that there is no density maximum. And I don't think that's right. There should be some sort of limit. It shouldn't be an open-ended. However much you want to smush into a space, you can smush it in there. This one I did talk about, and I was looking at it today, the short-term rentals. I think we need some sort of way to know which properties are being used for short-term rentals. I don't think it would be asking too much for the operators of those to actually have to register with the borough. And that way it's not just a free-for-all. And I realize it would be additional work for the borough staff. And I think it would be appropriate to charge a small fee. I mean, I pay a $20 fee to have a fire pit. I think somebody can pay a fee to have a permit for a short-term rental. And I also found, unless I was reading it wrong, but Allegheny, they have to register with Allegheny County as well.
Oh, that's neat, yeah.
Because of the taxes, it says, although booking agents are permitted to collect and remit tax on behalf of short-term rental operators, each operator is required to register with the special tax division and is obligated to report their taxable revenue. So, I mean, I would think between the county and you guys, like, you could cross-reference to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Commissioner. It's okay, yes, sure, Jim.
And I can answer one portion of that, since it's come up several times while you're walking. The density maximum, the reason we don't require density maximum in that district is there are building requirements that you can't just smush things in anywhere you want. You still have to follow all the necessary building requirements. The only key is that in a central business district where, and if you look at the historic pictures of downtown Crafton, they were built right next to each other and they did cover the entire lot.
Yeah.
And that is pretty standard in a central business district to have buildings cover the entire lot. And that's what you mean by, that's what is meant by density. How much are you allowed to cover on your given lot? Like in some neighborhoods, it's 60%, like if you're in a residential neighborhood, it might be 60, but it's pretty common in a central business district to have 100% coverage.
Okay, so that's, well, I guess I'm not allowed to ask.
Yeah, but what we can do is, there are members of the planning commission here to take that feedback and, bring it there. Now, I want to emphasize too, that the zoning for the council is not anywhere near discussion or anything. It is in a process right now of being re-looked at, put together by planning, and like we said, we probably won't even be seeing a document till January or later. There is no rush to get this done. We want to make sure before it ever comes to council, and I would not let it come to council unless we felt like it was something that was absolutely ready and had community input and had the information that was required.
Jim,
Yeah.
can I just ask you a clarified question? And if it's the right or wrong time, I don't know. So I think when I guess when I was thinking density, I'm thinking human being bodies.
Hmm.
So what you're thinking of dense is my simple, the amount of space that a building is taking up on a plot. So it's not shoving 500 people into a small tiny home. It literally is the amount of space. I know a tiny home's not in a business district, but it's the amount of space that the building is taking up
Correct.
versus people inside there.
Correct.
Okay.
And you're managed, as far as how many people you can put in, you're managed by building codes. not
Codes.
not by-
Okay. Please.
Thank you. Jim Sweeney, 25 Lincoln Avenue. And I have two questions. And no disrespect to Larry, but why do we have an engineer paid for by the borough? And I've heard Gateway several times that we're contracting out. Is there a reason why we're doing that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I can do one, is that your only question? I can
No, I
answer.
had another.
Okay, yep.
Jim, when you and I spoke some time ago about advertisement, et cetera, in the sewer project on Broadhead.
Mhm.
I said, I'll bring those maps for you, everybody knew what was going on. And you told me, and I thought it was the C20 that was going to involve Lincoln, Oregon, Montana. And you said at that time, bump outs would be coming.
Mhm.
Is that in fact still true?
Yes. That is for the green infrastructure portion of that project. And that is, well, that is being designed. So yes, they will, I don't know if we have that, we have the near, we can put out.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we got the landscape plan received for those.
Yeah.
That part of the project.
Yeah. Yeah. And then for the, I'm sorry, what was your first question?
Was why we have
Gateway.
Larry.
Well, so, engineering firms like in Gateway have lots of different specialties. And so Larry is never going to cover all those different specialties. So you still need to have an engineering firm for all different specialties. And the reason we hired one, typically a borough this side wouldn't hire him. But we have more than, I think, $14 million worth of projects moving through, budgeted some $700,000 of engineering budget. And by having Larry manage those and do some of the engineering work himself, we're able to have an extra, almost an extra employee for next to no money because of how much money we're saving. From doing the baseline engineering work that Gateway, the kind of project management work that Gateway had been doing, is Larry's doing a lot of that now. Larry's doing inspection work, and so he has probably cut off $75,000 of his salary, plus we have him as an employee doing managing public works and managing other aspects of the borough. So he is basically almost completely covers his own cost by cutting out the cost that we've already budgeted. Like last year, we had $1 million budgeted for Gateway because of the number of large projects that we have going on. And so his work is kind of, that's why we have an engineer on staff.
Okay, thank you. So Larry is managing Public Works Department.
Correct.
Who is managing it before Larry project?
Doug Sample.
The assistant borough manager was named.
So if Mike Tedesco was hired to replace Doug, why isn't Mike managing Public Works?
Because we separate, we changed the way it's set up.
The job description.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And back to my bump outs. Will any of the streets, listen, have you tried to park on Lincoln or Oregon?
Go ahead, yeah.
So I know how much space the bump outs take on Crafton Boulevard. Will there be bump outs on Park or Warren or any of those?
I'm not sure where they're all located, are they?
Dakota, Montana, and Oregon, yeah, the streets affected bump outs.
So Park and Warren are very steep. You don't think the water's gonna run down them pretty quick? Or we need to manage that?
Warren are part of Broad.
They're part of Broad.
They're part of the project, yes.
They're not getting bump outs.
But
Because it's not getting, because it's not part of the project. You said, what were the streets again?
Dakota, Montana, and Oregon.
Those are the ones that are getting bump outs.
I know, but my question is.
Yeah.
Park and Warren are much steeper.
Well, they're getting brand new lines. They're getting, so when you're doing this work, you have to decide whether you want to do. And this is about pulling sewage water out of out of storm sewers, right? Because we have a combined system.
Yes.
And though it's easier on Broadhead to just completely redo, and we're building a sanitary system and a storm system.
Correct.
So on those, so we're not doing bump outs on those. In the areas of the borough where it's much flatter and it's harder to separate things, which is why we're not separating them up on, or in that area, in Oregon and Lincoln and that area, where the only way we're able to slow down the water effectively is by using green infrastructure. And that's why we're using green infrastructure projects in that area, and we're using the separation projects in other areas. It's just the way the lay of the land worked out, and we really don't have another option to pull that additional flow out of the system.
So part of Oregon is community residential, which could be opened up for more cars, more apartments.
Only if people build them, only if people tear down the existing buildings and build more.
Okay.
Yes.
Except if they get a variance.
No, I mean, they still would have to, if you're gonna build a new building, you'd have to tear down the building, and build a new one.
But a current building, they could apply for a variance because it's on there as a conditional use or a permitted use. So they'd have to apply for a variance.
I'm not sure what you're asking. What you're-
I'm saying if we increase the number of people in cars that are using those streets, especially on the right-hand side of Oregon.
It's not likely, I mean, unless people rebuild their houses or change their, you know what I mean, like you have to rebuild a house to change. Or to add more density, you would have to tear down a house and rebuild it.
And rebuild to add
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, I don't know how, because that's a built out street, I don't know how else you would do that, but anyway, we can come, if you wanna come, we can talk about this in more detail.
Well, I just want to know what are the people supposed to do with their cars? They drive
Well,
over
there's no,
driveways,
I'm not anticipating any increase in density on that street, I don't know.
but for the bump outs.
Oh, yeah,
So what I'd like to propose is for our next meeting, if we could look at the designs for C20
Yeah.
and the green infrastructure, so that I know we looked at it prior, but just bringing it out to light so that we can all take a look at it and see if there's something that meets with not only the community, but everybody else. So,
Thank you.
all right, appreciate it.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Hands up on Zoom.
Sorry, hold on, I'm taking some notes. Linda?
Hold on, Nicole.
From the Wamasiak, 1773 Bar Avenue. I have 3 unrelated questions, but is the Station Street retaining wall the responsibility of PRT at all? Not, we've investigated that, and they have no responsibility for retaining walls. Is that because it's our land on the outside?
Yeah.
Secondly, the date on the current zoning draft needs to be updated. It currently says 6/27. It should be 9/19. And then how was the current logo for Crafton selected? I know some time ago there was a resident questionnaire online, some proposals and wording, and I just want to know how that, whether that entered into it or if the total select by the borough.
Is that?
That's all I have.
Okay, so the Station Street, the PRT, we got the answer to that one. The date on the zoning draft that we need updated from the planning commission and the logo selection.
Yeah, so the logo selection we did do, we had, it was a local resident who created them. We had 39 options to choose from. We had council go through and pick the top ones that they care about, and we put the top 3 out on a post. We ended up getting some feedback where a couple of them had inappropriate things in them. So, and this is something that happens often with logos, so we knocked that one out. And then we had focus groups. We put one back in, and we had 2 quick focus groups, one with community members and one with outside marketing people. And then we showed their recommendations to council, and council made a decision based on that.
They were presented during a council meeting, I think twice,
Mhm.
review and then voted on by council. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Anybody else in the audience? Mr. Wozniak.
Hi, Greg Wozniak, 73 Bar Avenue. I had a few questions. One of them was on C20, but it sounds like you're gonna cover a bunch of that stuff later, so I dropped that one. Also on the police garage, where you're doing the evaluation of that floor and what you're gonna do in that garage. It might not be a bad idea to ask the police department if there's anything else they want to do in that space that would require structural needs, such as if they're going to redo a celly port or something like that, that's going to require additional structural needs below, so that when they're doing the floor, they're doing it for some sort of future need by the police department. So that's the other thing. And the third thing I have is that I didn't see it on the agenda, but a discussion was here about the right to know costing $5,000. I just wanted to tell the community that it might cost $5,000, but it's really, these right to knows are the only way for community members to actually get to have questions answered if they don't feel that their questions are being answered satisfactorily. Excuse me. So as far as the cost for the right to know, that's the cost of doing business, and I just want the community to know that sometimes it costs a little bit of money to get these kind of things aired out. So thank you very much.
Oh, Maggie.
Maggie Harrison, 17 Division Street. This time I'll be brief. I wanted to just say I hate bump outs because I can't tell you how many times I've hit them in the snow, or if there's rain, or at night and traffic's coming this way, and I can't be watching where's that bump out and how close am I to the center line. So something needs to be done. Especially in the winter with this, when we have deep snow, that you can clearly tell this is a bump out. I don't know what you would do, a tree, a lamp post, I don't know, something. Because as I said, maybe I'm a bad driver, but I don't think so. I've been driving a lot of times and I virtually never had a ticket. Okay, so the other thing is I understand that the bump outs on Oregon is to help with the water flow. Is that it? As opposed to the separation thing or something? What's the purpose of the bump outs?
I can, after you're done, they're coming all answers.
Okay, and then my last point for now is the police chief that's retiring, Sumter?
Yes,
Okay, are we having any kind of little reception for him or cake saying goodbye and thank you very much?
We just talked about that today. Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, so there were, and again, we have to keep it within the protocols, but we'll go through the three items. One was why are we having the bump outs on Oregon?
Yeah, so it's, again, you're trying, this is about, bump outs are about slowing down stormwater. When Alcoasand gets too much stormwater at one time, it overflows into the creeks. We're trying to avoid that. So what green infrastructure essentially does is it slows down, when you have a big rain, it slows down and allows Alcoasand to catch up, essentially. And that's why we have to do bump outs. That's where the bump outs are.
Okay, so my understanding, bump outs are like what's up on Crafton Boulevard, those parts that come out, the cars can park here, but the cement comes out like that's.
Correct. That is a type of bump, that is a type of bump out. These are be different. Those bump outs are not, those don't have green infrastructure in them. These would have green infrastructure. They would be designed to catch water flowing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the other item was reception for Mr. Stickler.
we're definitely gonna do something for him. It's going to be quite a party.
Will that be a public?
Probably so, yes, I'm
We're
pretty
just not-
sure.
Maybe it's a secret.
It's a surprise. It's fun. Nobody tell him.
Sorry, Chief.
Happy New Year.
James.
Yes, James Bang, 96 Stewart Street.
So with regards to streets, I know that I asked a while ago about the speed on Sarah Street where it turns and paints of poplars, so like the city drives up. And they kind of like fly through the neighborhood because it's, you know, it's a very well traveled road. I know that there was a speed monitor put up. I'm just kind of curious as to what are the results of that, and then what would be kind of proper like speed abatement kind of things that we could pursue. I know that when that street was first designed, Phil Levasseur said that there will be bump outs, but not for water, but more so for traffic calming. Those were never developed. So I'm just kind of curious as to, is there any way to kind of deal with the traffic on that road due to people, one, running the stoplight that is on the Pittsburgh side, leading into the Crafton side, and then just people driving fast on that road, trying to get to where they're going to. Well, that's that.
That's great. Thanks. We haven't pulled the data from that, have we? So we need to pull it now. And we will do that. Yeah, sorry, we haven't done that yet. The other thing, we were gonna have someone clear the property that is in Pittsburgh where that stop sign is, doesn't tend to clear their foliage right there, right in front of the sign. We've called 311 in the city. They've not done that much about it. We're gonna ask to see if Public Works can go up and do it again. I think they had done it one time. The other thing is, I'd like to have the city put a stop bar in. I think having a stop bar would dramatically improve. A stop bar is just a white, when you see a white line painted on the ground in front of a stop sign, there's no stop bar there. And I think that's one of the reasons that you're seeing people blow right through that stop sign. And we're also talking about adding them, but that's in the city. So we would be doing it kind of, you know, we're gonna ask the city and see if they'd be willing to let us do it. Those are probably the best ways. Bump outs in an area like wouldn't necessarily slow down overall traffic. Unless you did big trees or something very close to the road. But we'll look into doing that, look into what the numbers said. I don't know what the numbers said at this point. AJ?
I didn't have this, but I haven't put down.
Okay.
AJ Custer sent me my record. I would, like on the subject of bump outs, I would just like to raise a concern about Crafton Boulevard and Baldwin. And sorry, just come up, yeah. And the concern that I have is that this is still not a functional, it's very, very difficult. That was a difficult turn to make before the bump outs went in. And this was raised to your attention when you were doing the bump outs for that particular spot. And I believe my memory serves me correct, that I was told that the engineering firm did test and a school bus could make that turn. I would just like to say that just because it could does not mean it should. And I have great concern about that. I think people talk with me about it, and I make that turn all the time. You have to come up into that intersection to see what's coming, and you take out the ability to do that. It is a very, very inappropriate, I think, use. And I would also, so that's number one. So just if I'm registering that as a concern. The second concern I would like to register is I would really like to ask, how many times have you had to correct gateway engineering's work? And I would like to have someone, doesn't have to be high priority or everything else you're doing, but I would like that to be raised, because from what I'm hearing, there are quite a number of things. If I look at the height of the lights that were put in on Crafton Boulevard, in my car, I'm blinded when those lights came up. You couldn't see to drive because of the lights and the shading. That should be standard operating. The height of them, that would be one. I have heard complaints about the bathhouses and what's had to be done there. And so I'm just hearing these, I'm calling them the attention. I'm sure that with some additional work, I would just like to see us make sure that we're getting what we need and not having rework done in that case. So thank you.
Thank you, AJ. Anybody else? Yes.
Here in Township, 50 Park Street,
I just have a few questions, and one is about the bump outs on the boulevard. Were they done because of the water situation? Like you're talking about, why did they put the bump outs on Crafton Boulevard? The second question is, so all the council members have microphones. It's very hard to hear. I'm struggling and I know other people are. And I was just wondering, maybe you could stand when you're speaking, or would everybody have a microphone to move around? And there was another question, but I can't remember what it is. Thank you very much.
So for the hearing, because it's been a struggle for years in this room. Can you hear me? Because I have a.
Yes.
You can hear me.
Yes.
And can you hear me? We have a mic in front of us. Okay, can you hear? Who is it that you can't hear?
This side.
This side.
So,
Yes.
okay, so I now, like last time, I didn't have a mic sitting here,
Yeah.
even though I have this part, so I have a mic here, but I'm seeing that there isn't.
These are designed,
Right.
there's 6 of them. So
Right, so should this be, say, between Vince and I?
we can test it.
Okay.
We'll test it again. We'll do it a day. We'll bring it down. We'll test it.
This whole side, you can hear.
Okay.
You guys are just too soft-spoken over there.
I've never been told that ever.
Not once, not
I was
ever.
gonna say, we do, there are mics, they're just flat, just so everyone knows they are here, just in case people.
But I did hear you very well.
Loud voice.
So. We definitely, it's been a challenge for years, including this mic that we need to replace. Online, it is visible, it is being heard, which is good, but we have to fix it. I just learned that there's 4 mics there, we can't hear anything about speakers above us, so.
Yeah.
There's none here, it's all back there. So then the other item was, why were bump outs put on Crafton Boulevard?
Well, that was prior to everybody here.
Well, not me, not me, unfortunately, so, that was all part of. Landscaping and traffic calming was the main reason for that I understand, and there was a lot of. Back and forth about it. But you're right, there are no council people here who were originally involved, and, that, Gateway was involved as well. But, the main reason is for traffic calming, which it does do that, but, anyway, that's what I know.
I think, as we mentioned, for C20, if anywhere that we're going to do that, we need to bring it to council, take a look at it, council, and get public comments on that. Okay. Yeah, you can back.
On my third question. Eric Malchin, 50 Park Street. When I first went to the meeting, the budget meeting, they were talking about property up on Belvedere. By the borough taking over. I don't really what you're talking about. And I heard it in the earlier meeting. Too. So I'm just gonna send questions about that.
Sure, so one of our goals is, in the past, when we've had blight, many buildings are just knocked down. That is typically how boroughs have dealt with blight in most situations, and that's how Crafton has dealt with blight in a lot of situations in the past. What we're trying to do is use a program that the state created, I think, more than 20 years ago, called conservatorship, where basically we take over. We don't own the building, but we take over a building, and there's a building that is set for, basically, it's been condemned and it's 82 Belvedere. And so we're starting a legal process to take over that building and to hire a contractor to fix it up. And then we can sell the building, and the borough gets the money back first. And then and then we have you have a person living here and EIT taxes, as opposed to knocking buildings down, which almost never get rebuilt.
Okay.
So that's the goal
Thank
behind
you.
that.
That's what it is.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Anybody else?
We do have one online.
Nicole's been so patient.
So Nicole, Karianna can't see it, we'll allow you to. Oh, there you are.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you for getting.
I can't hear you now.
Oh, you can't?
There you go. You're good. We can hear you.
Okay. I have two comments regarding zoning and one about business district development. I'll pause between each so you can answer. First, I wanted to ask about rezoning of the parcel behind my property at 184 South Grandview. If you look at the map, you'll note it's the only parcel zoned as P2 in that section along the west side of South Grandview. The rest is conservancy. I had spoken previously with Jim about this in November of 2023, and at the time, I believe he was not aware of any plans to develop behind my house and was uncertain as to why it was rezoned to P2. I do know that the lot behind my house is part of a parcel that was transferred in two parts to the borough. So the other piece of the lot with the same number is down in the area to be developed as a park, and we thought maybe the portion behind my house might have been accidentally changed to P2 when that was updated. So I would like to request that the portion behind my house remain Conservancy District if there are no plans to develop, and if there are, that I would be notified. I did buy my house because of the Conservancy District, and I've cleaned up those woods, removed a lot of trash, kept my yard free of chemicals because it is a wildlife corridor. So I can email you this, but I was just wondering, is there still a plan to that parcel behind my house?
We can answer at the end, if you have other things to comment, we'll answer at the end.
Okay. Second, I do applaud the decision to create the director role. I think it's needed, as others have said. I am, however, hearing concerns from multiple residents about Mike's reputation. The reason is that stating he was fired in 2012 role as Downtown Spokane Partnership Board President after, quote, not being city process protocol, and then in 2022, after plan to resettle unvetted Afghan Cambria County was leaked.
Yeah. Use the Q&A on that.
Yeah, if you want to, mic turn off too, by the way. What? The or mic there, it's, it's pretty like. Oh, can you turn it off? If you want to.
Oh, sorry about the shoddy caps, Nicole.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay to continue?
I'm gonna fix that right now.
Okay. Thanks, James.
Oh, wait.
Oh, okay to continue?
Oh, Nicole, if you.
Yeah, Nicole, if you want to, we're having a really hard time hearing you. If you want to type your questions in, you can do that, or I don't know if you need to move to somewhere else in your house, but we're having a hard time hearing you.
Or Nicole, can you try asking your question again? We're working on the mics.
Yeah, no problem. Hold on a sec here. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay, so I did put for the second part, but basically, so with regard to Mike, the reason people are I'm hearing concerns from residents is that there are two news articles about him not being respectful of the city process or protocol in a previous role, and also quote, treating the public as an obstacle to be kept ignorant, manipulated, and lied to. That was a statement made by a state representative in Johnstown. So my question is, what proactive checks and balances are in place so we can ensure Mike or anyone who would be in that role would be respecting our process and being transparent with us, since he's in charge of updating critical documents related to zoning?
So the first one, thank you, Nicole. So the first one is the 184 South Grandview, looking at, she's coded as P2, but wants to be in the Conservancy District.
Yeah, that is, the reason it was labeled P2 is it's the borough's property. And P2 is the passive, use of a park. And so it was done that, really, there's not much difference between Conservancy and park in this case. You can't develop, you can actually develop more on a Conservancy parcel than you could on a park parcel. But there's no interest in developing that as a park. We just had to zone that, but we can recommend the Planning Commission to rezone it as Conservancy. It doesn't really change things very much. From a zoning perspective. Yeah. Okay.
And then regarding Mike, or the checks and balances around Mike Tedesco in this position.
I can answer both.
Yes.
So first, in the lawsuit that he took against Spokane, he was fired after 1 year inappropriately because of a political issue, and he won the case. he sued and he won because he was fired without cause. When in Johnstown, it's a similar thing. He was asked to explore bringing in refugees by the directors of the agency he worked for, and he did just that. As a matter of fact, the documents that you've seen online complaining about him are public documents. They were public meetings where these issues were discussed publicly. When it came down to the decision, when it was discovered before they had made public announcements about this, that they were working on this, they made it out to be the secret thing, even though they were having these discussions in public meetings, which means that they were openly discussing this stuff. There were 3 weapons manufacturers in Johnstown. It's a major weapons manufacturer. That's their major industry in Johnstown. And after the fall of Afghanistan, the owners of these companies felt guilty, and they wanted to bring in and they wanted to see how they could help Afghan families. These are families that protected American citizens, American soldiers in Afghanistan. These are doctors and lawyers, and this, not all of them, but a lot of them. And so they sought to see what it would take and how many, there are settlement agencies all over the place. Pittsburgh had several settlement agencies here in Pittsburgh, and he reached out to them, did exactly what he was asked to do by his bosses, look into this as a potential solution for Johnstown to bring more people in. And it became public, and he was thrown under the bus by a local senator. And then those weapons manufacturers backed away from him and let him take the fall. And that's exactly what happened. And I reached out to, as I mentioned before, at previous meetings, when I got his references, I checked his references, but I also checked the people he didn't put down. I checked the solicitor I talked to the solicitor at Johnstown. I talked to the manager at Johnstown. They all had rave reviews for me that they thought he did great work. And they had no complaints, but they talked about him being thrown under it. And this happens oftentimes under political pretenses. So I have no concerns, but I check everybody's work, and we're watching, and we're trying to be as transparent as possible. And I have access to everybody's emails, and so we're keeping a check on everything and watching. So thank you. Okay. All right. That's good. Yeah, just pin, if you right click on that, yep.
I'm a team.
The muter.
Hi, Karen Minsley, and Board of Family. This is more of a curiosity question. The ownership of Giant Eagle down at the shopping center is becoming corporate next week. And I was just wondering, was there any talks, or did you get anything from Giant Eagle regarding this change? And do they have plans? I just didn't know what they ran through the borough. That's awesome.
They didn't reach out to us regarding any of this. They don't need any permits for anything that they've done to date. Although we have talked to Sue, who used to own it or have that franchise several times. We knew that she was going to be losing the franchise on the 28th of September. And Mike was just talking to someone at corporate, I think a couple days ago, and they told him that they're investing $1.5 million into that building. So when they do that, we'll definitely, because they'll have permits and everything else, so they'll be reaching out to us regarding that. But that's as much as we know at this point. It's good. Anybody else?
Nicole's hands up.
Yep.
Hey, yeah, thank you for your response to that. I just wanted to put the third part of my comments in the Q&A. So I did do that in case you can't hear me, but it's related to business development. So one, I guess I'm wondering if there's been any discussion of creating a dining district, because that's been discussed online by a few residents, and it was a successful strategy used in a similar community to ours, Westfield, Massachusetts. They became a regional destination for restaurants by incentivizing them. And two, I'm wondering if there have been any studies done with the commuters coming from the bus line, for example, surveying them to see what kind of businesses they'd like. Also wondering if PennDOT is going to remove stop restrictions like as planned. And then just wanted to suggest that Town Center is an organization based in Beaver that has a track record of doing planning that could support this initiative.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. I think it's definitely a great suggestion. That's a goal from dining district. You know, Serafino's is extremely popular, but that's all we have. I mean, there's not much more for folks to come into, and it's a destination area. In West, you know, but that's part of Mike's role, and that's where we, you know, look at Mike, is he meeting objectives? And those are the objectives that we set out for him. And we manage to those objectives to make sure that he's meeting those objectives, and that would be one that we'll definitely bring back to him. Very good. All right, we don't have anybody else online, and it is 8:45. And meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for all your comments.
Yep.
Very.
Thanks, Nicole.